This right to vote is the basic right without which all others are meaningless. It gives people as individuals, control over their own destinies. However viewed, the denial of the right to vote is still a deadly wrong, and the time for injustice has gone.
I think that should be my right to vote. That's the way I feel about it.
93-year-old Viviette Applewhite has been voting in presidential elections since 1944. But under Pennsylvania's new voter ID law, she may not be able to vote in November. She's among a few 100,000 registered voters, according to estimates by Pennsylvania officials, who don't have an acceptable photo ID.
What about a driver's license?
I never driven a car in my life, never wanted to.
And I pledge you that we will not delay, or we will not hesitate, or we will not turn aside until Americans of every race and color and origin in this country have the same right as all others to share in the process of democracy.
My vote counts. It counts. If they can count it in the ballot, then it counts to me.
But his state's strict voter ID law, enforced for the first time in a major election Tuesday, posed a problem. Without a driver's license, Noble would need to get a special voter ID card, and for that, he'd have to provide his birth certificate, his social security card, proof of his address, and even documentation of his name change after he was adopted.
I knew from the jump I was going to need an ID, but I didn't think it would be like so hard for me to actually get my ID.
Students face other barriers. Some college IDs are allowed under the law, but not those from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, which don't have a signature, meaning Madison students have to go get a separate ID.
Area that it has a lot of Hispanic people, and it's a low-income neighborhood, and there are a lot of people here who are having difficulty.
Supervisor came over and told me that because there wasn't a seal on the birth certificate, that it wasn't a valid birth certificate according to Homeland Security.
I'll tell you one scenario. I was in the city jail here in Dothan, and it was time to vote for the president. Do you know all of the votes came back and they told us we wasn't able to vote? They gave us all our ballots back. Just put them in an envelope. Mail time, they gave them back to them, and we're like, why is this? Or we voted for Obama, what's the problem, you know? Never to this day did we get an answer. I've done 7.5 years in the Florida State Correctional Institution.
It's been like probably 10 years or more.
I did 11 years, and I've been out now 5 years. If I don't receive a pardon, then I'll be 60 years old before I can even get my voting rights back. You imagine if everybody that's incarcerated and that's at the county jails, if they had that right to vote, how many people that would be? It's over thousands and thousands of people that are actually locked up just here in Alabama. So if you was to go in and you was able to get all those votes, it can tilt any election. That's power. That's a lot of power.
It means that dedicated leaders must work around the clock to teach people their rights and their responsibilities, and to lead them to exercise those rights.
The first step is they need to make sure that they're not on probation or parole. That's first off. And after they make sure they're not on probation or parole, after they completed their probation or parole time, also make sure their fines and restitutions are paid up. They've done that. They don't have to do anything but come get an application and say they want to be registered to vote.
And if you do this, then you will find, as others have found before you, that the vote is the most powerful instrument ever devised by man for breaking down injustice and destroying the terrible walls which imprison men because they're different.
Our collective futures depends on your willingness to uphold your duties as a citizen, to vote, to speak out, to stand up for others, especially the weak, especially the vulnerable, knowing that each of us is only here because somebody, somewhere, stood up for us. In the elderly woman who will wait in line to cast her vote as long as she has to, the new citizen who casts his vote for the first time, the volunteers at the polls who believe every vote should count, because each of them, in different ways, know how much that precious right is worth.
My vote counts. It counts. If they can count it in a ballot, then it counts to me.